I'm 73 years old. I woke up this morning with a strange heaviness in my chest. Not pain exactly, just the feeling that time is sitting very close to me now, closer than it ever has before. At this age, you don't think about the future the way you used to. You think about what's left. And more than that, you think about what's already gone. I'm not telling this story because I want to be heard or understood. Most days, I'm already used to being quiet. I'm telling it because there are things I finally see clearly, and I didn't see them when it mattered. I'm sitting alone as I say this. That's not a complaint. It's just the truth of where life landed me. When you're young, you imagine old age as a finish line. You think there's relief at the end. You don't imagine how much remembering there is, how heavy remembering can be. I look around my house now and everything feels smaller. Not just the rooms, my world, the number of people who know me well enough to call without a reason, the number of places I still belong to without trying. I didn't expect it to be like this. Not exactly. I used to think I was doing things right. In my 20s, I was busy becoming someone. That's how it felt. I had a job that wasn't perfect but paid the bills. I told myself I'd do something more meaningful later, once things settled. I worked long days and came home tired, but it felt responsible, grown up. I wasn't careless. I wasn't reckless. I was practical. I believed in showing up and being reliable and earning my place. If you'd asked me then what mattered, I would have said stability, progress, doing what needed to be done. I thought those were virtues, and maybe they were, but they became a shield too. I didn't miss birthdays on purpose. I didn't skip calls because I didn't care. I just always thought I could get to them later. Later was my favorite word. Later. I'd call my parents when I wasn't so tired. Later, I'd take that trip. Later, I'd slow down. Later, I'd fix what felt slightly off in my marriage. The quiet tension we both pretended wasn't growing. Later felt endless back then. In my 30s and 40s, life filled itself with routines. Morning coffee, commutes, weekends that disappeared faster than they arrived. Conversations that stayed on the surface because it was easier that way. I told myself this was adulthood, that this was what everyone did. I remember coming home one night and realizing my children had changed somehow. Not suddenly, gradually. Their voices were deeper. Their interests had shifted. I had been there the whole time, but I hadn't been present. I didn't think of it as absence. I thought of it as sacrifice. I thought providing was the same as being there. Nobody tells you that relationships don't break loudly most of the time. They thin. They wear down. They lose warmth like a fire that isn't tended. There was no single argument that ended my marriage. Just years of choosing silence over honesty because honesty felt inconvenient. Just years of thinking love would wait. One day it didn't. By the time I realized how far apart we'd grown, it felt awkward to bridge the distance. We were polite strangers who shared a history. We talked about schedules, not feelings. We avoided the past because it felt too heavy. When it ended, people said it was sad. I remember feeling something worse than sadness. I felt late. That's a feeling you get used to eventually. Work kept me busy after that. Busy enough not to feel the loneliness too sharply. I told myself I liked the independence. I told myself I wasn't the type who needed much. I believed that for a long time. The years didn't rush by. They slipped quietly, one after another. I attended fewer gatherings. I made excuses without realizing I was practicing disappearing. Friends moved, some passed away, some just drifted into lives I wasn't part of anymore. I assumed we'd reconnect someday. That assumption followed me everywhere. The turning point didn't arrive with trauma. It came with a phone call I almost didn't answer. My father was gone by the time I arrived. I stood in a hospital hallway feeling strangely detached, like I was watching someone else's life close a chapter. I kept thinking about all the times I'd said I'd visit soon, all the conversations that stayed shallow because there was always something else to do. He didn't know how much I loved him, not because I didn't love him, but because I didn't show it in ways that lasted. That realization doesn't scream, it settles into you. After that, things started to look different, not brighter, clearer. I noticed how few people would be affected if I didn't show up somewhere. How little space I truly occupied in other people's lives. That's a hard thing to admit. I used to think being remembered meant being important. Now I know it just means being present. And I wasn't. Not enough. There are things I can't fix now. I can't go back and sit longer at the dinner table. I can't ask the questions I avoided because they felt uncomfortable. I can't show my children the version of me that wasn't always distracted. We have a relationship. It's fine. But it's thinner than it could have been. That difference matters more than I ever expected. People don't tell you that regret isn't always about big mistakes. Sometimes it's about small neglects repeated faithfully over decades. I regret how often I chose ease over honesty. How often I assumed people would understand without being told. How often I let days end without saying what mattered. I regret thinking I had time. Now, time feels like a room I'm slowly being guided out of, not pushed. Just gently reminded that my stay isn't permanent. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of having lived without fully being here. If I'm speaking to you now, it's not because I have answers. It's because I finally understand the questions. I wish I had known that nothing important waits patiently. Not love, not connection, not meaning. They require attention while they're alive. I wish I had known that being busy is not the same as being useful. That being admired is not the same as being loved. I wish I had known how quiet loneliness can be, especially when it arrives after a life that looked full from the outside. You don't need to overhaul your life to avoid this. I didn't fail because I was careless. I failed because I delayed. If you're younger than me, you won't hear this the way I'm saying it. That's okay. I wouldn't have either. Just know that people remember how you made room for them, not how hard you worked. They remember the pauses, the listening, the moments you stayed when it would have been easier to leave. I'm not asking you to do anything. I wouldn't presume to. I'm just telling you what I see from where I'm sitting now, with fewer years ahead than behind. The days ahead of me are quieter. I've made peace with that. I tend to my routines. I enjoy small things. Morning light, warm tea, familiar music. There is gratitude here, real gratitude. But there is also a gentle sorrow that never fully leaves. It sits beside me like an old acquaintance, not hostile, just present. If this meant something to you, that's enough. If you feel inclined to share a thought, I'd listen. I don't know how much longer I'll be here. None of us really do. I only know that when the room finally empties, what I'll miss most are the moments I postponed, believing they'd wait for me. They didn't, and neither does time.